Compare. Listen to a sample response and compare it with yours. The main idea of the lecture is that artists didn't want their work to be viewed by a limited number of people, but instead desired for as many people as possible to see it. The professor covers a couple of steps artists took to ensure that this happened. In her first example, she says that artists utilized cheaper materials to avoid having patrons who would keep the artist's works for themselves. What happened is that artists owned their own works, so they were at liberty to display them anywhere they wanted. The professor then discusses how artists made sure their works were displayed outdoors or in public places. She states that cathedrals are full of art like statues and stained glass windows, and she also mentions Michelangelo's work in the Sistine Chapel. In her view, doing art like this enabled the greatest number of people to see the artist's works. Compare. Listen to a sample response and compare it with yours.
The professor looked into two different ways in which animals cooperate with one another. She emphasized that cooperation was not solely a human trait, but that animals did it as well. In her first example, she discussed deer and how they protect themselves from predators. By feeding together, deer can alert one another quickly when predators come. This lets various young, old, or sick deer hide while others stay close together to attempt to ward off the attackers. On the same topic, the professor then cited the example of the honeybee. They go in different directions in search of food and, upon locating it, return to their hives to perform a dance. By doing this dance, they share their knowledge of the location of the food source with the other bees, which enables them better to provide for the needs of the entire hive.
Compare. Listen to a sample response and compare it with yours.
The professor discussed two of the ways that flowers attract insects so that the insects will pollinate them. First of all, he covered the importance of the flower's colors to attracting insects. Since some insects can see colors well, flowers use this fact to their advantage. The professor brought up the point that butterflies are attracted to red and yellow colors. So some flowers, like the painted daisy, which is yellow and red, use these colors to entice insects to come and pollinate them. The professor then pointed out that most insects are in fact colorblind, so flowers must resort to using scents to attract insects for the purpose of pollination. The example cited by the professor was jasmine, which emits a sweet scent only at night. Since the moth, which is active at that time, is attracted to sweet scents, jasmine can be pollinated by moths.
Compare. Listen to a sample response and compare it with yours.
During the course of the lecture, the professor focused upon how photographers represented industrialization in the 19th and 20th centuries. He first discussed the way it was portrayed in the 19th century. According to the professor, many people during this time were afraid of technology and feared it was taking over their lives. So photographers spent most of their time snapping shots of nature and people. When they did photograph industrialization, they portrayed it in a negative light, such as by showing people all worn out from working in factories. On the other hand, the 20th century saw people starting to appreciate industrialization, so photographers began showing pictures of machines that made them look good. As an example, the professor showed a picture of a clean automobile factory with smiling, happy workers. He cited this as an example of how photographers honored industrialization in the 20th century.
Compare. Listen to a sample response and compare it with yours.
The lecturer focuses on two different methods of advertising companies like using when trying to sell their products. He first cites direct advertising as one popular method of advertising. When an advertiser utilizes direct advertising, it emphasizes facts and statistics. The example given by the professor involves the direct advertising of a car. In using this approach, the ad will discuss the car's excellent gas mileage or mention how economical it is. Meanwhile, another approach that's commonly used is indirect advertising. Here, companies utilize association to convince people to buy their products. Again, the example used is that of selling a car. However, instead of citing facts, the advertisement will try to convince people to want to be in the situation in which the car riders are in. Everyone riding will be happy and having a good time, so potential customers will associate that car with having fun.
Compare. Listen to a sample response and compare it with yours. The professor tells her students about film shots and how directors use them to transmit messages to their audiences. The first example given is that of low-angle shots. These are shots taken with the camera aiming up toward a person or object. Low-angle shots send a message of power since they make the person appear to be looking down at people. The professor mentions that one would take a low-angle shot of the Queen of England to stress her power as she looks down at her subjects. Something else similar is high-angle shots, which are taken from above the subject so are thus looking downward. The professor describes a person stranded in the desert. By looking down at him, the camera conveys a message of hopelessness. The reason is that the shot not only shows the person but also the surrounding area, which further emphasizes the person's bad situation. Compare. Listen to a sample response and compare it with yours.
The professor focuses his lecture on positive thinking and how it affects the ways in which people behave. He first discusses the weather forecast from earlier in the day. He states that since the weatherman had claimed there was a 50% chance of sunny weather, no one brought umbrellas with them. However, he notes that on the occasions when the weatherman claims there is a 50% chance of cloudy or rainy weather, then people will bring their umbrellas. While the forecast hasn't changed, people's perceptions of it has. He next compares the labels on two medicine bottles. One claims it has a 90% chance of success, while the other states that it only fails 10% of the time. Although they have the same effectiveness, people most often choose the one that advertises its success rate. The reason is that it is more positive than the other medicine.
Actual test.
Number 1. In this question, you will be asked to talk about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to prepare your response and 45 seconds to speak.
What is the most influential invention in the last 100 years? Please include specific examples and details in your explanation. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Number 3. In this question, you will read a short passage about a campus situation and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After you hear the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak.
A university has decided to change its regulations on students living in the dormitories. Read the announcement about the change. You will have 45 seconds to read the announcement. Begin reading now. Now listen to two students as they discuss the event.
Talk about annoying. I can't believe I'm going to have to live on campus next year. I can't stand the dorms.
Well, I rather like the idea. It would be nice not to have to pay for another increase in housing fees. I've had to pay more and more every semester, and it's not easy on my wallet. Frankly, it's becoming quite a burden.
Okay, I can understand that. But I was living at home. That's free. I shouldn't be punished by having to live in a dormitory.
Yeah, but there may be exceptions to the rule. You should look into that.
You're right.
However, I do like the idea of getting everyone to participate in extracurricular activities.
But you don't do any activities yourself.
That's true, but the reason is that nobody else has been doing them. Now, since it looks like more people will be getting involved, I'll probably sign up for a couple of clubs or maybe join an intramural sports team.
It sounds like you're going to be busy.
Now get ready to answer the question. The man expresses his opinion of the university's regulation on living in the dormitories. State his opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Number 5. In this question, you will listen to a conversation. You will then be asked to talk about the information in the conversation and to give your opinion about the ideas presented. After you hear the question, you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak.
Now listen to a conversation between two students.
I can't believe it. You'll never guess what happened to me.
I give up. Tell me.
I was supposed to go on a picnic with my volunteer group this Sunday, so I went ahead and bought a bus ticket to the place we're going. But apparently the picnic's been canceled and I can't get a refund on my ticket.
That's too bad. What are you going to do then?
Well, the ticket costs a lot, so I ought to use it. I know there's a nice waterfall near that area, so perhaps I'll go hiking there on Sunday.
Really? I heard on the news that it's going to get cold this weekend. You might not want to be outdoors all day long.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. In that case, if the weather doesn't cooperate, I guess I could always visit that art museum which is on the bus route. I haven't ever been there before, so it would be kind of nice to look at some of the exhibits.
Normally I'd agree with you, but the museum's actually undergoing renovations right now, so only half of its exhibitions are open to the public, and all that construction might be too noisy for you.
Well, that's not good to hear.
Now get ready to answer the question. The students discuss two possible solutions to the woman's problem. Describe the problem, then state which of the two solutions you prefer and explain why. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Number 1. In this question, you will be asked to talk about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to prepare your response and 45 seconds to speak.
What do you think is the most important qualification to be a teacher? Please include specific examples and details in your explanation. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Number 3. In this question, you will read a short passage about a campus situation and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After you hear the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak.
A university is announcing a ban on bicycles on campus. Read the notice about the ban. You will have 45 seconds to read the announcement. Begin reading now. Now listen to two students as they discuss the event.
I totally disagree with the school's ban on bicycles.
Well, I see their point. I know one of the pedestrians who got run over. She still hasn't recovered.
Yeah, but there are many responsible bicyclists out there. The number of reckless riders is really small. The school shouldn't punish most of the riders, like me, who obey safety rules and never come close to getting into accidents.
Perhaps you bicyclists should do a better job of policing your own. You know, get the ones who don't care about safety to be more considerate of others.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Anyway, the school's going to have more buses, so you'll still get to class on time.
I don't think so. I took a look at the new bus schedule.
And?
The buses are still only going to run once or twice an hour. This campus is really huge. There's no way everyone is going to be able to pile into them. I foresee a lot of students being late to class in the future.
Now get ready to answer the question. The man expresses his opinion on the regulation against bicycles. State his opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Number 5. In this question, you will listen to a conversation. You will then be asked to talk about the information in the conversation and to give your opinion about the ideas presented. After you hear the question, you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak.
Now listen to a conversation between two students. Gina, how are the rehearsals going on that play you're putting on soon?
Not so well, to tell you the truth. You wouldn't believe what happened.
Try me.
Well, George and Steve got in a huge fight, and Steve wound up quitting the play. If you remember my telling you, Steve's the lead actor, so we're in kind of a bind since opening night is only 10 days from now.
That's horrible. So what are you thinking of doing?
Well, we've considered letting George take over the acting of Steve's part while still serving as director of the play. That sounds good, but I don't know if George can handle doing everything. Director is a huge role, and so is being the lead actor. It's probably too much for one person.
Yeah, you're probably right. Say, why doesn't someone from your group go and have a talk with Steve? Perhaps you could persuade him not to quit and to rejoin the play.
Maybe, but Steve won't come back unless George apologizes, and that's almost definitely not going to happen. George is convinced he didn't do anything wrong and feels that he has nothing to apologize for.
Ouch. It sounds like things are a real mess. Now get ready to answer the question. The students discuss two possible solutions to the woman's problem. Describe the problem, then state which of the two solutions you prefer and explain why. Please begin speaking after the beep. Task 1. Sample response.
I believe the most influential invention in the last 100 years has been the Internet. One reason is that the Internet has brought the world much closer together than anything else, even jet travel. For example, I have pen pals in countries all over the world, including Asia, North America, and Europe. We can learn about each other's lives and cultures so easily because of the Internet. Second of all, the Internet has increased people's knowledge about the world and international events. Now I can look up information on the Internet that I could previously only find in a library or maybe an expensive encyclopedia. And I can also read or see the news from any country in the world just by logging on to the Internet.
Task 3. Sample response.
According to the announcement, all students at the school will have to live in on-campus dormitories starting next semester. The man supports this idea for a couple of reasons. More than anything else, it is because this new regulation will keep the cost of housing from going up. The man is pleased that the price of housing will be staying the same next semester. He states that he's having trouble paying the fees, which have been increasing every semester. Another thing he mentions is that he's going to participate in some extracurricular activities next semester. While the man doesn't currently do any other activities, since there will be more students doing them, he's going to join a couple of clubs with all of the new people. He says that he might even try playing on an intramural sports team as well.
Task 5. Sample response.
The woman's complaint is that she had purchased a bus ticket to go on a picnic, but the picnic has now been canceled, and she can't get a refund on the ticket. Since she doesn't want to waste the money she spent, she's planning to use the ticket and go somewhere. The solution the woman proposes to her own problem is to visit a waterfall that's located near where the bus will take her. I feel that's the woman's best course of action. By visiting the waterfall, she will be able to spend a relaxing Sunday afternoon getting in touch with nature. Second of all, although the man mentions that it's going to be cold, all that the woman needs to do is to dress warmly enough. If she takes care to wear the proper clothing, then she won't have anything at all to worry about.
Task 1. Sample response.
A good teacher needs many abilities, but I think the most important qualification to be a teacher is an ability to explain things well. For example, I'm not a good math student, but Mr. Park, my math teacher, explains our lessons so well that I've improved my math grade tremendously. Not only that, but I'm also starting to understand the material better thanks to his clear explanations. However, my science teacher, Mr. Lee, is the opposite. He's a very intelligent man, but he doesn't ever explain things to us very well. He just relates a couple of facts and then expects us to understand completely. I used to like science, but now I'm so confused in that class because I can't comprehend what I'm being taught.
Task 3. Sample response.
According to the announcement, because of the large number of recent accidents on campus involving bicycles, they are now banned from being ridden at the school. The man opposes the school's decision to ban bicycles. The first reason for this is that, according to him, there are only a small number of cyclists who ride their bikes recklessly and endanger other people. The man feels it's wrong for the school to punish the law-abiding cyclists because just a few cyclists are behaving dangerously and hurting people. Furthermore, the man doesn't believe that the increased number of buses will be enough to satisfy everyone. He points out that they will not be running that often and that not everyone will be able to take them. This, he declares, will cause lots of students to be late to their classes once the policy is instituted.
Task 5. Sample response.
The woman's problem is that she's participating in a play, but the lead actor just quit, and there are only 10 days until they're supposed to put on the first performance. Of the two suggestions that are made, I think the actors in the play should make George apologize to Steve so that he'll return and act the lead role in the play. Since there's not much time before the play opens, they need to make sure that they've got someone competent in the main role. Also, while it might be difficult for George to apologize, everyone needs to compromise at times. Even if George thinks he did nothing wrong, it wouldn't hurt for him to apologize. After all, it would be for the good of the entire cast of the play. So George should do the right thing and say he's sorry.